Welcome back to Technologies Now, a business edge, and this is a broker's perspective. I'm your host, David Erbach, and today I'm joined by Steve Case, founder and CEO of Acropolis Realty Group and Acropolis Development, headquartered in Syracuse, New York. Steve's not only a successful developer and real estate executive, but also an adjunct professor at Syracuse University and a dedicated community leader. We're going to talk about how real estate is evolving from traditional property investment to data-driven, tech-enabled industry and what it means for the next generation of brokers. Steve, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Steve, you built an impressive portfolio and career in both real estate and education. What originally drew you into the real estate world?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it probably stems back to my college days where I looked at a lot of my friends' dads who had a lot of money, and it seemed to be that they were all in real estate. So there was one common denominator, and I joined the real estate club and spent a couple years working in the family business. I went back to business school, and one of my real estate professors was actually a really well-known developer here downtown Syracuse, and finished up business school. And I said, Bob, I want to get into real estate. I want to be a developer. What do I need to do? And he said, you need money and you need experience. And I had neither. So I said, can I get a job? And
Right.
I started working for Bob back in probably about 2010 and kind of learned the ropes and just absolutely fell in love with it.
Nice. And then, so that drew you in. That was 2010. So when did you actually, start Acropolis?
Yeah, so I worked for Paramount Realty Group for about 5 years, did a lot of commercial leasing and sales, helped out on the development side, got to learn a lot about historic tax credits, grants that were out there for these particular types of projects. And then I started Acropolis in August of 2015. So we just hit our 10-year anniversary.
Well, congratulations. That's fantastic. Obviously, things are going well. And you've got your first location, as I would guess it, is in Syracuse. And then you decided you'd like some warmer weather too, or found some opportunity. So you're in Florida as well. Yes.
Yep. We opened up an office down in Tampa, St. Pete area about 3 years ago. And I quickly realized there was a strong connection with upstate New York and the Tampa region. So I ended up meeting a lot of people down there, and it just made a lot of sense to open another office down in Florida.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. I could see you'd want to balance off the different extreme weathers that you have between, upstate, or I'm sorry, I should probably call it upstate New York. Is this, you call it middle New York, or what's the term for the Syracuse area?
Yeah, upstate counts. We'll call it upstate. Central New York or upstate New York.
Okay. But of course, upstate New York is anything just north of the city because New York City is the center of the world. So,
Exactly.
I think that's how it works, right?
Yeah. Anything south of Albany, we call downstate.
Oh, nice. That's a better perspective. I like that. That's interesting. Yeah, I lived in Poughkeepsie for a little while with a friend of mine after I graduated college. So I was officially upstate New York, at that point. So
yeah, you're right there. Anything south of Poughkeepsie, you're downstater.
I was downstate. I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't correct myself quickly.
So you're right on the border.
That's perfect. So you've been an educator at Syracuse, and how has teaching shaped what you do, or maybe the other way around? Your work shaped how you teach?
Yeah, teaching was a great experience for me. I did that probably from about 2014 to 2019. And they asked me to come back and teach a real estate course, which then led into me teaching 2 real estate courses. And I really enjoyed it. It's a totally different perspective. The thing I liked about it the most is being able to combine academia and real life, where a lot of professors only know what's in the textbook. So it was really fun for me to not only teach what's in the textbooks, but to go and show them real life examples and take them on development projects that we're working on, housing developments, apartment buildings. So it was really fun for me to show the students, hey, this is the beginning of a project. They come back a year later, I show them the finished product, and they get to be a part of the whole experience from beginning to end. So I really enjoyed that part. And probably the part I liked the most is I get to cherry pick my best students to come work for me at Acropolis, which is great. So I hired my first student back in 2015. And so he was my first employee. And like they all do when they graduate, hey, where should I go work? What should I go do? And he listed a bunch of companies. And I said, I think that you should probably come work for me at my new company that I just started yesterday. And so he took a risk on me and I took a risk on him, and the rest is history, but it worked out great.
That is perfect. Did you think that being an adjunct professor would lead to recruiting opportunities initially?
Definitely not. what I intended, but it happened to work out that way. So it worked out.
That works out great for everybody. Yes, and you do get to cherry pick. Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. So how, speaking of the company and the teams you build and the employees, I mean, how do you scale these multiple teams? How do you manage them? I mean, real estate's very dynamic and it takes the right people in the right places, maybe at the right time, to be successful. What's the key to success in your business?
It's a great question. I think the key to success is your people, right? And it's hiring the right people, putting the right people in the right seats. And somebody might be really well suited for one position, but they're doing something else. So it's finding out what they're good at and what they like to do. And I've realized I've had some really great people, but in the wrong spots. And as soon as we made the shift and moved them over to another department, they fell in love with it, and it was a win-win for everybody. So I think the biggest key to success is hire the right people and let them do their jobs.
Nice, nice. And we probably should step back and have you talk about your company and what you actually do.
Yeah, so we started out as a small commercial sales and leasing group. My background in bread and butter was commercial leasing and sales. TJ came on board that August of 2015, and I quickly realized the nest egg that I had saved up, and my little safety net of cash went very quick when you're no longer making a salary and now you're paying one. So probably within the first 3 months of opening a business, I realized, wow, we need some steady income. So we grew from just a small commercial leasing and sales operation to then bringing on property management for a source of steady income. And that also led to doing more residential sales. I think like most of my students want to make millions and millions of dollars selling commercial real estate, which, is definitely feasible, but doesn't happen overnight. So we had some residential leads that I gave to TJ, who was my first employee. And I think he closed all three in the first 2 months that he had those leads. And I think he made probably $20,000 in 2 weeks. And he said, all of a sudden, I love residential real estate. So that was really the opening of the door to the residential piece of the brokerage. We quickly became residential, commercial, and property management as we slowly got into more and more development deals over the years.
No, that's fantastic. So how do you build your culture across all these services that you provide? I'm going to say initially in Syracuse, and then how did you take that to the opening of a new location in Tampa?
Yeah, I think company culture is probably one of our biggest keys to success. And I'm not taking any credit for it. It kind of just happened organically, but we had a great core group of folks our first year in the business, and we maybe had 5 or 6 agents that were all of the like mindset of work hard, play hard is kind of a new way of doing real estate. And we built a brand new office downtown. We were the first of our real estate brokerages to be located downtown, which was it kind of created this great energy and this great vibe. And you could walk to lunch and you could go for happy hour after. So there was a lot of things happening in downtown Syracuse at the time that we opened, where it was up and coming with new shops and restaurants. And your traditional brokerage is out in the suburbs where you park your car and then you get back in your car to leave when you go home. And now we're right in the center of the action. So we had a lot of agents, I think, kind of came over because we built a cool office. And within the first few years, I realized I didn't really know what I was doing. And I didn't know much about residential real estate. And we were kind of growing this thing. And I realized I had no professional training or background in residential sales other than the sales that I had under my belt. But I'd never worked for a big box brokerage. So I realized that if you build it, they will come. In 2019, I bought a much bigger building down Syracuse, built a really cool office. And I think we grew from, I think we had 40 or 50 agents at the time to 120 agents now.
Well, that's a fantastic success story. And that is you're talking about cross property management, commercial, residential, or primary residential at this point?
Yeah, those are primarily residential agents. We still have a small commercial group. We've got about 7 or 8 agents that focus solely on commercial. And then we've got a handful of people dedicated to property management. But the majority is the residential brokerage.
Yes, that makes sense. So where does that leave you? Do you spend your time as the leader? Do you spend your time producing as well? Or what's your role at this point, Steve, with this big,
wonderful organization? That's a great question. I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
Yes.
It's really just keeping everything together, right? We constantly have a million balls in the air at one point, any different division of Acropolis. So I could be working on a development deal in the morning, building a Starbucks in the afternoon, working with agents in the middle of the night, working on a deal. Real estate never ends, right? So real estate agents are working morning, noon, and night. And nights and evenings and weekends, you name it. So every day is different, which is what I love about it. So any given day, I can be working on a million different things.
So you've seen lots of changes in real estate and obviously developed your company over these 10 years here. What do you see in the next 10 years? What's it going to look like as far as the residential real estate or commercial or whatever you think sounds, like it's really going to change and be interesting and dynamic? We're still going to have the same people doing the same things pretty much, or is it going to change dramatically?
Yeah, I mean, I think technology is definitely taking over the world, right? And with the introduction to AI in the past year to 2 years has really been a game changer. So I think the benefit of having I was going to say younger brokerage, but I'll say younger minded brokerage because we have all ages, but more technology focused than maybe some of your traditional firms have been. And, the ebbs and flows of real estate, there's going to be down markets, there's going to be seller markets, buyer market. It all depends on where you land in the cycle. But there's always going to be a need for real estate agents. I don't think technology is ever going to be able to take over and open a door and show somebody a house, right? There's always going to be a need for a real estate agent to negotiate the deal and to really help people find their dream homes. So I think real estate agents are here to stay, but it's the way that we do business that's rapidly changing. And I think with AI, especially this past year, I've seen how it can drastically change how agents are doing business. And I think it's a great thing. And I think that it allows them to get a lot more leads, and with different things that they can do with AI and getting more leads, I think it's only going to help their business.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously leads are the key to everything. But what is your advice for someone just starting out in residential real estate, for example? What advice do you give them about how to approach things, how to use tech, what advice do you give them? Or is it a mindset? What's most important?
I think your mindset's most important. And like I tell a lot of young realtors that are getting into this business, they see how much money people are making and they're thinking, wow, I can make millions of dollars. And you absolutely can, but you still have to put in the work, right? So you're running your own business. So every day you get up and you've got to do certain things to fill your pipeline, to do your lead generation, to prospect. And the agents that do those things will be successful. If you're an agent and you think that leads are just going to get handed to you and this is an easy business, you're in for a rude awakening, because real estate is hard and you've got to put in the time. And it's a slow grind. I tell new agents, you might not do a deal for your first 6 months, right? And we're going to help you become successful, and we're going to teach you and train you the things to do and things to say with buyers and sellers. But you need to become the expert in that market. Right? So they're trusting you with one of the biggest purchases of their lives. So you need to know what you're doing. So we make sure at Acropolis that you're trained, you're well versed in the markets that you're working in. So when you're ready to go out and take buyers to go see houses or get a listing to help a seller sell their home, you're ready and you're prepared, because this is one of the biggest investments that they're making. So my biggest piece of advice is to stay positive and stay hungry, right? It's easy to get complacent when things are going great. And then all of a sudden, all those deals close and your pipeline's empty. So you've got to keep doing the things that are going to make you successful.
Excellent. And then as far as your company and, potentially recruiting agents out there, why should a successful agent or an agent starting out look at Acropolis?
Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously they have a lot of options out there to them, and there's a lot of other competing brokerages. I think the nice part about Acropolis is we've always prided ourselves on being an independent brokerage, right? So we don't charge hidden fees. We don't charge franchise fees. There's no advertising fee. So we basically are the best of both worlds. We're a little bit of a hybrid, right? So you've got your traditional brokerage that offer all the tools and resources, but take a big cut of the agent's dollar. And then you've got your cloud-based brokerages that offer no tools, no resources, but give them a really high split or a transaction fee only. So we're kind of the best of both worlds, where we have a little bit of a traditional split model where we give really competitive splits, but still offer all the tools and resources of the big box brokerages.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. In order to stay competitive as an independent, you have to find your place in the market and offer, your value for your employees or your agents that you have out there very, very clearly. Do you guys have like mentorship programs set up when people come on board, or what's the concept there?
Yeah, we do. So we have some mentorship programs where we've got a few teams, and the team lead would take on that mentor role. We've also got some great real estate coaches within our organization. So we've got an office manager who does weekly training, and then we've got an outside third-party trainer that also does some goal planning and some real estate training as well. So we want to make sure that our agents are prepared when they're out there in the world, that they're doing all the right things and saying the right things. And compliance is a big thing for us. So we've got a transaction coordinator that kind of keeps an eye on all the paperwork. So we set them up for success and then continue to hold their hand if they're a new agent. And then as they grow, they become more independent and run their own businesses. But we like to keep an eye for at least the first year to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, because a lot of young agents come from other careers or other professions outside of real estate. So we want to make sure that they're well prepared when they hit the ground running.
Excellent. And then Steve, so real estate ebbs and flows, as you had mentioned before. Are we moving into an ebb or a flow? What's your market prediction that everybody can hold you to?
Time right now. And we had a lot of agents that came on in the last few years. COVID was actually really great for real estate. We had our record years in 21 and 22, and the floodgates kind of opened up, especially in New York State. We went from being essential workers to non-essential workers, back to essential workers. So almost created this bottleneck. And agents that got in the last few years experienced the huge boom of real estate. Interest rates hit record lows. They were in the 2% range. And all of a sudden, everybody's buying houses, whether they wanted to or not. They couldn't pass it up because the interest rates were so good. So it was like a false impersonation of the market being too good. And now all of a sudden it's evening back out a little bit. We've stayed really strong here in the Syracuse market because of a few different factors, but our supply is really low and demand is still really strong. So Syracuse market has stayed pretty strong, where as opposed to Florida, I've seen it soften quite a bit over the last year. So houses are sitting a little bit longer on the market. They're not getting full ask anymore. You can actually put in an offer below asking price and have a shot at negotiating back like the pre-COVID days. Because the last 2 years, I mean, you were all ask, over ask, all cash, no contingencies. It was a crazy couple of years there. So I've seen it calm down, and it's equaling out a little bit now that towards the end of 2025.
So is this more of a normalized market at this point, or just the regular?
I think it's good. I think it's good to kind of get back to equilibrium. And it was crazy for a couple of years, which was awesome if you've got a lot of listings, right? If you're dealing with a lot of sellers, listings were like gold. They were selling within 24 hours on the market. I mean, we had houses that were getting 50, 60 offers if they're priced right. So it was a crazy whirlwind that we just went through over the past 2 years. So I think it's almost a good thing, and it allows for first-time home buyers to get into the market now, where if you're a first-time home buyer doing an FHA loan, you weren't getting a house. So I had agents working with buyers that they would take them around every single weekend, put in offer after offer after offer, and nothing's getting accepted because they're losing out to all cash offers that are over asking price. So that's calmed down a little bit, which I think is good. And it kind of opens it back up to VA loans, FHA loans. Like we're seeing more of those now the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's serving more of the first-time home buyers and bringing them into the market, as you said. No, I think that's really helpful, obviously, for the balance of everyone to have a chance to own a home. So Steve, let's switch gears just a little bit here. Tell us something about yourself. What do you like to do when you're not working? When you're playing hard, what do you like to do? Tell us.
Yeah, well, obviously, it snows in Syracuse, so love to ski. I love to do ski trips out west. Love to golf. Love golf trips, especially if it's a nice day here in Syracuse. Love to get out on the golf course, and then I've got my dog, so try to get out with him as much as possible when we get the occasional nice weather day here in Syracuse.
That's nice. Excellent. That's fun. So you make it out to Colorado? Is that one of your West trips, or where do you like to go?
I've not been out to Colorado yet. Freshman year roommate at Bucknell is a Cherry Creek guy, so out in Denver. So I've been trying to make my way out there, and he says the skiing is great. So I'm going to have to check it out.
The skiing is great. Although you guys have more natural snow than we do out here at the moment, but that won't change. We'll just get we'll get our snow hopefully pretty soon here, but the resorts are open. So that's very exciting for us as well. So interesting. So from a business owner perspective, if someone else were looking at starting their own business, real estate or not, what advice do you give them from a business owner perspective, not necessarily maybe a new broker or new real estate agent perspective?
I actually just had this conversation with somebody this morning, and not necessarily wanting to get into real estate, but just starting their own business in general. And that's the thing I like about real estate is it opens up other doors for whatever your dreams may be. So I've had a handful of agents that have started restaurants, wine bars, and a handful of other things. And real estate has allowed them to make enough money to go and do that. But the big thing is really mitigating your risk, right? So owning a business is a risky venture, right? So you want to do everything that you can do in your power to mitigate that risk, right? So you want to take a look at how much upside there is, and then worst case scenario, what is my downside? And I just finished a book by Sam Zell, and he said it perfectly. And he's like, I need to know what is the most amount of money that I could potentially lose, and then what is my upside? So he's like, worst case scenario, I lose whatever, $2 million on this property, but I've got the potential to make $35 million. That's a risk I'm willing to take, right? So you always have to be willing to risk something. So I come from an entrepreneurial family. Me and my brother had the same upbringing, and we both watched my dad be an entrepreneur his whole life. He's never worked for anybody a day in his life. And I looked at that as, man, this is awesome. I admire that. I love my dad for that. And he's never had to answer to anybody. So that's how I wanted to live my life. But we also see the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. My brother hated that life. He did not want any risk. He had his student loans paid off in 2.5 years, had his house paid off in 5 years. He has no debt, no credit card debt. He became a financial planner and has no debt whatsoever. I'll go and sell a building, make a commission, and I'll go buy something else probably within the next 24 hours, right? So we have the same exact upbringing, but two totally different mindsets on entrepreneurship and our risk tolerance. He's got zero tolerance for risk, and I think I have maybe a little bit above average risk tolerance.
It sounds like it. You're not afraid of leverage. So yes, that's how you get ahead in real estate if you can take that risk, as opposed to working on just paying off your house first. That's interesting.
Yep. Exactly.
Yes. Cool. Well, Steve, this has been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate you sharing your insights on, real estate and leadership and talking about Acropolis. That's been fantastic. So thanks to everyone for joining us on Technologies Now, the Business Edge, a broker's perspective. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and subscribe to us at Technologies Now AI for full episodes and highlight clips. And you can connect with us on LinkedIn. And thanks again, Steve. Steve, can you give us your website or where people should go to find out more about Acropolis?
AcropolisRealtyGroup.com.
AcropolisRealtyGroup.com. Thanks again, Steve. I appreciate your conversation. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having me.